Howdy folks, Timber Drifter here. So, out exploring today. Public hunting land here in southeast Kansas. I was in here yesterday. Windy day, cool temperatures, beautiful day. And I stumbled across an old stacked stone well that's kind of right over here. I'll show you in a minute. But it was almost dark and I didn't have time to kick around here looking for what I would assume would be an old homestead somewhere around here with an old well like that present. I'm gonna smoke my old beater Benton Select here with some Gowth and Hogarth Balkan mixture. So, spent about the last half hour walking around here trying to figure out why this well was here, and I have decided that it was an old homestead. People started settling this area, or I should say white folks started settling this area by the late 1840s. There were small towns already established. Most of them weren't really incorporated until the 1860s. But there were little trading posts here and there. There were people with cabins, running a few head of cattle, things like that, farmers. So, could potentially be from, all the way back then. It's pretty nice stonework. Examining it, I see that it's dry, stacked stone, and at some point a long time ago somebody repaired the top of it with some concrete. A little windy here. Anyway, interesting weather we're having here. So a week ago it was 0 degrees. Yesterday it was in the 40s, and today it's almost 60. I'm hot. So the other thing that was interesting about this spot, I noticed this tree that I'll also show you in a second right here that I don't recognize. There are elms growing around here, elms and oaks, and this tree, I don't typically see this kind of tree in the woods here. I'm used to seeing this in town around the older houses. Trying to figure it out, I cut a branch, a fallen branch right next to it apart, and I doubt it'll zoom in on that, but the grain looks like elm, but the bark doesn't look familiar to me, so let's have a look at that. Don't typically see trees here with that kind of green moss on the bottom, or whatever it is. There's just the two of them right next to each other. So I have to do a little research and figure that out, what kind of elm that is. If it is an elm, maybe it isn't. Well, there is the well. When I found it yesterday, I was coming from that direction over there. I'd been hiking for about 40 minutes or so. Saw this stonework here. It's a very deep creek that it's right next to, and behind us there's a fairly steep hill, which makes sense why they would put a well here. You can usually find water at the bottom of a steep hill, and the water that's inside of there is actually about 4 foot higher than the creek is. And it's still iced up down there where everything here is unfrozen and flowing. And this is an old post set in the ground. It's not a tree. some old nails in it. So I'm just gonna tell you a little bit about my process trying to figure out where this homestead would be. So this area we're standing in here, the well is now behind the camera. You can kind of see that I'm standing on a little bit of a rise. And all the way around that is old creek bed. And then this creek bed over here is much deeper. So I'm thinking that, knowing that this is flash flood country, any person who had spent some time here wouldn't likely build a cabin down this low. And there's a good site over there, a little higher up for a cabin, but I don't think you'd put your well across the creek from your house. So, to me, the house has to be somewhere up along this ridge. I don't know how long ago this was done, but back in the old days there weren't forests like what you're seeing here now. And this isn't much of a forest, but the only place you'd find trees like this would be in an area like this, where there was creek banks. Otherwise, it was pretty much just prairie. Between the natives and the lightning and they kept it, pretty well burnt off and the trees down, and then also the buffalo grazing through. This was buffalo country and wildfire, prairie fire country before it was cattle country. So if it was that old, then of course you'd want to orient yourself next to a creek where you could have water, or in this case put a well in, and also have firewood. But there weren't as many trees around. Cabins weren't as common here. Mostly it was sod and dugouts. But if it was later than that, it could easily have been, built of boards. So anyway, I was looking around and I was thinking, if this was in use for quite a while, then there'll be a well-worn trail. Even if there hasn't been anyone here for 100 years, you should still be able to see a trail coming to it. So as I picked around, I found two possible trails that are now, as they come down the hill, they're runoff areas. That's one there. This is another one right here. So I followed each of them, and they actually both go to a very well-established deer trail. So I'm going to pause the camera a minute and walk up there. All right, we're about halfway up the hill. It's probably hard to see on camera, but that is the trail right there. And it's got a pretty good groove. And it goes straight up to there. So let's go up there and I'll show you what I found. So, unfortunately, what I found here, starting right in this area, is evidence of heavy machinery. Bulldozer, moving dirt around. And right over there, and over there, there's some pretty well-established coyote dens that have been there a long time. More evidence of loose dirt, trees being pushed over. But as I walk through here, I see there's kind of a level spot that looks like it was scraped by a long blade, bulldozer blade, that I think might have been the side of the cabin or soddy. Once again, I don't know if the camera will pick up the shape, but it's a perfect square. The yuccas are right in the middle of it, and that tree makes the outside edge. You can kind of see, let's see here, right here, there's sort of a ridge. They're the same thing on the other side, and it's about 12 by 16. So I'm thinking a long time ago somebody might have come in here and bulldozed what was left of the cabin and moved a bunch of dirt around here. And these yuccas you don't see growing around here except as ornamentals. So, interesting. I'm going to spend the next half hour or so before I got to head back and pick around here and see if I find any artifacts or anything like that. You can just kind of see in that spot how the grass grows different. And all these ridges in the ground here make me think of trees being pushed over and rotting in the ground, because you can kind of see mounds and then a straight line of mound going away from it, which is pushed over trees or fallen over trees. Call them tip-ups. Very interesting. So, strange piece of stone. Yeah. Anyway, a little bit of excitement, doing a little amateur archaeology. So, y'all take care. Hope you're able to get outside and enjoy the day. I'm gonna head down and, once I finish here, explore some of the creek banks. So I'm always looking for old buffalo skulls sticking out of the creek banks. All right, take care. Go outside.